Chairperson, members of the Permanent Forum, sisters and brothers. First, we would like to say that we are very happy that our youth were able to join us here this morning. Indigenous women are the knowledge holders and caretakers of our cultures for future generations, and as such, we have great responsibility in the protection of our tangible and intangible cultures, languages, medicines, heritage and historical memory, creativity and innovations, worldviews, and cosmovisions. Likewise, given Indigenous women's roles as producers and reproducers of our culture, we are responsible for our genetic resources found in our own bodies as well as in Mother Earth. Protecting the rights of Mother Earth is integral to the full and effective enjoyment of our rights as Indigenous people. We are very concerned that currently the World Intellectual Property Organization is effectively denying Indigenous people's rights as articulated in international legal norms, conventions, and the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. This denial of our rights is threatening our knowledge systems and cultural heritage and our very existence as Indigenous peoples. The recommendations below are an urgent call to prevent practices that could very well lead to cultural genocide, which is an element of the legal definition of genocide. We call upon the World Intellectual Property Organization to amend its rules of procedure to ensure the full and equal participation of Indigenous peoples in all processes that are affecting them. We ask the UN Permanent Forum to support this recommendation in addition to other recommendations made by Indigenous peoples, nations, and organizations present here today. The Global Indigenous Women's Caucus calls upon WIPO to fully respect and integrate in its norm-setting works and programs Indigenous peoples' right to free, prior, and informed consent. We expect WIPO to consult and cooperate in good faith with Indigenous peoples through their own representative institutions in order to obtain their free, prior, and informed consent before adopting and implementing legislative or administrative measures that may affect them, as stated in Article 19 of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. We call upon Indigenous peoples to work in the development of our own legal standards for the protection of our knowledge, systems, and cultural heritage, including traditional knowledge, traditional cultural expression, and genetic resources as defined by WIPO, in accordance with Indigenous peoples' traditions, practices, and laws, as these issues are stated in Article 11 of the UN TRIP. We ask that WIPO and states formally recognize these legal standards. We call upon the UN Permanent Forum to ensure that Indigenous peoples have the right to own, use, develop, control, and protect the land, territories, and resources that they possess by reason of traditional ownership, stewardship, or other traditional occupation or use, and that such recognition be conducted with due respect to the customs, traditions, and land tenure as stated in Article 26 of the UN DRIP. We recommend that the the states and United Nations work with Indigenous peoples to fund and develop capacity building, especially for Indigenous women, including legal training, access to decision-making processes in the matters that affect them, and follow-up programs to ensure that they are able to continue to safeguard their knowledge systems and cultural heritage for the future generations according to their own legal standards and ways of life. Thank you.